Good morning. Can everyone hear me? I'm assuming everyone can hear me. Oh, awesome. Okay, nadanago natuisaw kasam, bikani nadukdutu. And in my Blackfoot language, Idamak Spanatani and Oki Francis, thank you for joining us. This morning, I want to say thank you so much for the few minutes that we had this morning, just getting ready and transitioning from being in person. This is the very first year we're doing this online, and I want to give the entire team, Rob St Denis, Herb Crowchild, Jimmy Weaselchild, Lizzie, last name Black Plume, and everybody, kudos for working this entire weekend just to get us set up today and definitely going through tests and everything. But this morning, pardon me? Oh, Desiree, yes, Desiree, right, oh man. Thank you everyone for helping us. So this morning I want to pass it over to our elder, Francis First Charger. He is a proud member of and father of two children. Francis and his wife, Judy First Charger, have been together since 1977. They also have four grandchildren who are the treasure of their family. Francis has many traditional and spiritual children, too many to list, he says. Francis First Charger was born and raised on the Kainai First Nation on the Blood Indian Reserve. He was raised in a traditional cultural family in the spiritual Blackfoot ways of the Blackfoot people. He has 6 diplomas in agricultural and several letters of recognition and a certificate in management and accounting. Earlier, Francis First Charger, Ninastipo, received an award of Distinguished Alumni from the Lethbridge College in April 2013. Francis was also the recipient of the 2010 Lifetime Achievement Award presented by the Aboriginal Council of Lethbridge in December 6, 2018. He received his first honorary member of the University of Lethbridge Golden Key chapter. These also are a few of many of his accomplishments Francis holds. He is an accomplished traveler, having seen the world from many different angles. His corporate and cultural travels have brought him to Japan 3 times, and 3 times on BTAP matters, such as places in Italy to speak as a guest lecturer for the Guatemala and education endeavor. Mr. First Charger has served on many committees in the past 25 years, including serving on the Aboriginal Council of Lethbridge as a corporate and spiritual advisor, a Treaty 7 representative on the First Nations Forestry Program, and a steering committee for the economic impact of the Kainai First Nation Blood Tribe. He was the special advisor to the former Lethbridge President Tracy Edwards. Presently, Mr. First Charger serves as the SHIA Housing Committee for the City of Lethbridge since 2004. Lethbridge SHIA Leaders Council and the cultural groups and committees for the University of Lethbridge, and Opie Gosson Elder Committee and Opie Gosson Board of Director. He works for the Dillon School of Business under its Elders Program since September 2008. Ninastipu now provides advisory services to many different organizations, institutions, and individual entrepreneurs on and off reserve. So this morning, I'd like to pass the mic over to him for our opening prayer. Francis, you're on mute.
Oh, there it is. Okay. It's Ninastipisto. Thank you for the introduction, Loa. And I was just, when you were reading my my bio, one time I read this, and then somebody read my bio, and he told me, you guys been together since 1977. I said, yeah. He said, what's your secret? I told him, we don't fight. If you can believe that. And he said, I've gone through about 3 or 4 marriages. If I had them all together, it would be the same number of years I've been married. But anyways, I'll pray, and then I'll have a few words at the end. And when I pray, I'll say thank you. And now, when I say thank you, after I finish saying thank you, take your right hand and you put it towards your chest, and you say a, meaning you accepted my prayer. And I guess more like I always compared like amen. I guess the Western people the way they do it. And I'll be praying for the organization, all the participants, the students, employees, and also the staff of Community Futures, and of course the COVID that will it'll go away and won't come back, and also the ones that are have passed away from it, their families that they stay strong and we're with them in prayers, and also the vaccine. A lot of us are getting vaccinated, and also it doesn't spread anymore. But I'll go with it'll have a lot of things in my prayer, but I'll get started now. I wish to pat the pure I can catch good to my tie not be I wish kids can just cannot Kego tens get to my conic canal cat piece of Kita Pios and upset the pitch in the kaki. Oh, can the kaki out that pat the pitch can add squish. Kego and Kagego cat boat to my creeps at that being no stum gonna tap. So can do it come so you put ups. Much to watch Miss Cassia, Miss Quaking, Kita, Dago Kai, Quaking, what to say. And the kaki, the Matu Simani kaki. I can add to Kusno when the kaki no man sit up your kaki. I get that and staki. And Mark Wiki Pastivation kaki. That's so is no chipping on. Oh, Kaxwatista Pani, Shamskabi Picania, but also Picani, Chikakano can. Oh, Kikanaman, which Kanaman seats the pure. And the candy knopokanate, Picanaman, Sakwichikaki. Oh, Kinikaki, no touches, Dutch Pinanikaki. Daksay Pichichi Pinanikaki. Anika Kuchin, Octopus, what dark schools to Spinika. Ukpikimukina is the better pure guy to get a beard in the Dutch and Nanikaki. It seems to walk it up here. Oh, Kinikaki, Kanam, Anikaki, Kimishanikaki, Anikaki, Uchkimano, Achikaki, Oxoma, my key the Kiakai Kaki Maya. Kimmat to Sat not be the bro knocked us paper, and it's gonna cut Skanichikaki. Kanaman to connect cut Chichikaki. Oh, Kinishinaminas, Makoto Xikaki. Yo pocket Puinikaki, and Nichikaki, Yotomi Piokinan. Grapple cube had Sinikaki, Gramas, the Piokaki. Anikaki, a couple of suka, Pinikaki, Rokan, so I came out to Sat not be. Cannot pass this dance to my cook talking Kimma Kaki. I used to pad the pure Pikaki, can answer to crystal top at the Pikaki. Oh, Kispumusaki, Nietzsche, it can it be Nani Chikaki, Nietzsche and Skita put the kids being walking Stisaki. I did change Nishkanya, Oxpumus and Nikita put the kids Kaki. I got a set of serve up for the show at Nikaki. Nikaki, a Hekini, and Nikaki can answer to Kuistikaki. And Nikaki, a cast Esuk Nikaki, Esuk Mr. Nikaki, Kaki, Manikaki, Estimata, Koka, Purksaho, Spumosaki, Matus, and not do it. Oh, Kinis Estima, Kaki. I got Nikaka, a Hutka Pudaki, Nichikari, to come Makani. I'm so glad to check with Stimakat and Nanikaki. I could see Naples took some to or Kim Matus, I can dash to Snot to me. I kist bad book. I cooks commit in the kitchen up at the beach. He cooks here, yes, so cooks here. O Kisaka when street appeal, unwise coaches to as marks so as Kim Matus and not read some up at the beam. O Kinika can add to quiz to guy cook it up one not more community cats who can't be more so quick of that's about part of any be some so quick. O kist bad book, Kaki. Sakoki Naniko Taka Yaxis. Ekineti Pinanikaki, Atrist Danokunanikaki. Oh, Kishpumokina, Tagohatune, Etoman stop at the piece Pinanika, Nikagnitis Konans, the Pinas, Litsukonas, they got ice the piece Pinan state for you, Pikaki. Tano ka o tu tachi ma apachi machi o kini kani tapis ko sa ko taski tapopina. Ai kini ka kya mato simani ka kits kuna tapsaki. Ika ko against taste macho against kuna tapspikaki. Kina ka siski dance kitsma kukto kitkin ma to kina. Isto ne ka ki ane ka ke en ka ki do khanstaka ko istipat ko en nik son en no mach to pan ka ki. Nog dat pais de pis pinani ka ki. O kispumu kina knas ko iskaki. Ai kena ane ka ki knas kana to nisun to tats kana po pinan ane ka ki da kisama o kui pro na ane ka no ko sinna is kan ka ki da ku ta po pinna. Ek so apa just of nog ta ko hi ka pinna. O das to pe puns ke is to as to ta pe kim ma to pinna. Ne kanita pisko iskaki. Kini sistikichi. En ska mara tsita pita piota. Anni kaki ausuksta sudosis osibisuat anni kaki. Ahutis anni kaki. Tuka penni kaki tsiku agitsa katok anni kaki. Upa puaka penni kaki uhta iksibspia. Suateita pita pispia kimma tusana pida. Oh kikau. Epidama nokosis nissukosis. Jopa pis nitsukwat. Jokosis letoapukosis. Kaki letoapussukosis. Kirisi mai. Jopa kene puya. Kimmatusana pinipidama. Doch komst du mit Reisebekostot. Nicht doch nicht drin kaki. Oh, kikanaasuka pita kukaukamisto. Oh, kamutani stort mal kipustin sachsate pisin suppukita pilsen. Thank you. I'll just have a couple of short stories, and now you guys can go on with. We'll begin the other people's that have to talk today. I was at the center teepee at they call it Akukats, holy encampment at the Belly Buttes of the Blackfoot people, and I was painting faces, and this young lady and her husband and her kids came in. And the lady was the last one to for me to paint her faces, and she was making a sound, and she was crying. Tears were going down her cheek, but she allowed me to continue painting her face. At the end, I talked to her mother-in-law. I said she was crying. Did her husband force her to come in? Because I don't like to force people into anything. Or did they, maybe they got into an argument or something? But I told her mother-in-law told me that girl is deaf. She can't hear, and she only makes a sound. She can't talk. She said, even though she couldn't hear you, she could feel your prayer. He said it was a happy cry, and she really appreciated that. I was quite amazed at that. See, that's how powerful prayers are. This person can't even hear, but he felt them, the prayers. A few years ago, well, actually quite a few years ago, I did a lot of work for the city of Lethbridge, and I still do it occasionally. And we brought together several employers. They came and they said they were talking about retention. They had quite a discussion going around the table, and also the people that hosted. And at the end, they asked me what I thought, what my input was, and I said, well, it's no big secret. All you got to do is be good to them, and they'll be with you. I've seen some people that have been with their organizations for many years, like 20 years, 25 years, and some of them end up retiring because the employee was good to them. And of course, the employees, the ones that are working for the companies or the employer, in all ways, they call it miniki dagistochi, pamsokistochi, swagistochi, miniki imistochi. There's a ways they say that if whatever you want to do a good job of it. If you're not going to do a good job, don't even go. And they always tell us, don't do things for money. Always do something that you're happy with and you want to do it. So with those words, I want to encourage everybody um, during employment. And I know today we're going to, I know it's the Blackfoot cultural ways, but a lot of our ways are in the different tribes across Canada, which I've done quite a bit in some of my work. And some of our ways are similar, and some are definitely different. But and our values are also the same too, and some of them are different. But the main thing is prayer, that we're very strong in our spiritual ways, and we're always um, that's what we hold on to. They say, and they don't talk that anymore. That just keeps us going. So everybody, have a good day, and thank you, Treaty 7, for asking me to say a few words and to pray. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francis. I want to thank you so much for joining us, and it's good to see you. Last time I seen you, you were in your vehicle on, I think it was Zoom. So it's good to see you, and a wonderful prayer. I really heard you speak in your Blackfoot language in many different things that you were praying for, and it was really nice to hear that long prayer. And it has been nice to see a lot of our elders jump on video, so I'm really glad that transition has happened. Currently, I would like to introduce and bring to this podium down here at the Community Futures Treaty 7 office that we're in today. I would like to welcome the Community Futures Treaty 7 General Manager, Sanford Big Plume, and he's right on time. We're almost on our time here. And he's the former chief of the Tsuut'ina Nation. He's worked here for many years now, and I know part of his portfolio in the past that he had on the nation as well was the economic development. So I'd like to welcome him to the podium this morning to say a few words to all the attendees, and welcome to the 137 people.
Thank you very much, Lo, for that kind introduction. First of all, I'd like to say welcome to all the post-secondary students, to all the employers who are taking part today in our third annual Treaty 7 Post-Secondary Employment Symposium. I'd like to thank Rob and his team for putting this event together. Without them, all you post-secondary students wouldn't have the access you have to employers as you have today and you will have in the future. So in your travels, you give thanks to Rob and his team. You know, as a father and a grandfather, great-grandfather, you think of nothing but the best for your children, your grandchildren, in the way of education. And having events like this just goes to show, when you look at the numbers that we have, well over nearly 150 students participating today in the Treaty 7 area. That's amazing, you know. Our hats off to all these students who are going through this hard work. And even during these times of the pandemic, hats off to you for continuing your education. To the employers who are taking part in today's event, thank you so much. Just like we've said in the past, the biggest and largest demographic is our First Nations children. So with that, give them opportunity, put them to work. You won't be unsatisfied with who you hire and what you come up with. I believe that. You know, there's 110 jobs that are available. And we want the best to get the best. So employers, take a good look at them. There's a lot of talent out there. And you know, like Francis was saying, very important prayer come from inside our heart. It's our way, it's our traditional way. So when you go into this new world, your new journey, always remember where you come from. Remember that who you are. Pray to Nata, the Creator. He will always help you in endeavors. So don't forget. And with that, I'd just like to say good luck to each and every one of you. And I'm sure you all do good, and the employers will not be unsatisfied. So with that, I'd like to say again, welcome to the 3rd annual. Rob, your team, many thanks for that, and God bless and take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a gift for you.
Oh, look.
Thank you. I wish there was actually a behind the scenes camera. Well, I guess we have email to see the things that are going on behind the scenes. At this time, I would like to welcome Rob St Denis, and I'm just going to read his bio here. He's a member of the Beardy's Okemasis First Nation in Treaty 6 by relation of his Cookum Helen Yaya Kikut. I hope I'm saying that right. And his great-grandfather Edward Yaya Kikut. Rob's mother's side is from Sturgeon's Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan. He is happily married to his wife Candace for the past 18 years. And together they raised their 2 children, Keyboy and Audie, who are registered at the Siksika First Nation. Rob's first passion in his life was basketball. After his high school, he started his academic journey as a post-secondary student athlete at Brandon University and SAIT here in Calgary. Rob completed his business administration diploma through SAIT and continued his studies by completing his Bachelor's of Management degree with a major in Human Resources and Labor Relations from the University of Lethbridge. He is currently working on his master's degree in Public Administration through the University of Saskatchewan. In October 2002, Rob started working at the Community Futures Treaty 7 as the Youth Labor Market Consultant. During his 18 years in First Nation labor market development, he has put in time with the Service Canada National Performance Measurement Committee and has presented on best practices for Indigenous youth projects and local, regional, and national conferences. The National Youth Secretariat has contacted CFT7 to provide a co-presentation next month with the Community Futures Treaty 7 Student Advisory Committee on how to connect with Indigenous youth. Rob also has worked as a guest lecturer for MRU and the U of L on the topic of Indigenous human resources. Rob also sits on the MRU Indigenization Committee and has a passion for discussion on Indigenous recruitment and retention. So at this time, I'd like to welcome to the stage Rob St Denis.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Loa. Thank you, Francis, for helping us open this morning properly. I don't know, Lizzie, maybe we can hold off on the slide for just a minute. I'll ask you when we need to share that slide. So thank you, everyone, for coming today, all the students, all the employers. Definitely a lot of gratitude goes out to our team. Herb, Des, Hannah, and Lizzie helped out, and Jimmy on the tech support. And to all of our leadership as well that have been supportive, our shareholders, our board of directors, and our general manager, Sanford, who you heard from today. So last year, I kind of started out with a little bit of a personal story about how I first moved to Calgary, coming from Saskatchewan, coming from Saskatoon, and getting like all disoriented downtown. First time being in a big city, getting dizzy the first time I went downtown, and not seeing very many First Nations people in suits. So this event is part of trying to get more First Nations people downtown, so that hopefully one day we'll see a lot more in the crowd of people downtown in suits, a lot of First Nations people. That would have been, that's a goal, long-term goal of this event, is to see a lot more people, a lot of our people more visible in all kinds of environments. So I think with the partnership with employers, we'll get there. Before I kind of get into the slides, I kind of wanted to mention, talk a little bit about the protocol this morning and land acknowledgements and how it's contributed to this event being kind of smooth and successful. I think in the last 4 or 5 years, land acknowledgements are getting more and more common. And as the land acknowledgements are there, it isn't really explained why they're done or why people are doing them. They're just doing them. So the more common they get, I think if you look ahead 5 to 7 years from now, if the land acknowledgements continue to become more common, you know, you got to ask yourself, well, what's the next step, or what's the next question to the land acknowledgement? What do you do now that everyone's doing it? So for my time here in Treaty 7, which has been since 1998, it's going to go on 23 years pretty soon. My whole worldview and the way I think is just heavily influenced by Treaty 7 territory and kind of the worldview here and the thought process here. So I kind of want to share my view, and I don't really speak for other people. My view of why we do protocol is, I'm just speaking for myself. So to do that, we in my introduction, Loa mentioned that I got an HR degree, and I went through a ceremony, convocation, and it was a public event, and everyone kind of acknowledged that I got this HR degree. So now I kind of have the rights to talk a little bit about HR. Similar, you know, with Francis, I think I mentioned it in a couple info sessions, that he has the rights to do the opening protocol. And similar, he probably went through a ceremony, and now he's acknowledged as having the right to provide the words that he did to open us properly. So I'd like to kind of explain some of that right now, how I view it, and how it's contributed to the success of this event and us working together. So as I've come to slowly understand the opening protocol, Francis Hughes speaks in Blackfoot, and he acknowledges everything in our environment. So the land, the people, the plants, the animals, all things in creation. And he uses the Blackfoot words to acknowledge. And then we show respect and acknowledgement to everything in our environment, all people, all things. And we do that at the opening of every meeting. And then we're working together. We're in harmony, we're in sync, and our meetings seem to go very smooth. So to even put more context to that frame of thought, how I've kind of viewed that now over the years is the value in it and how important it is to use local people. And when you hear the land acknowledgements, that's your signal on who the local people are. So with Francis being from Treaty 7, he's Blackfoot. We didn't do a land acknowledgement in English because Francis already did the land acknowledgement in Blackfoot. And honestly, it's way better than we could try to do it in English. It's kind of clumsy and it's missing a lot of parts and pieces. So Francis does a great job in Blackfoot for us. So kind of the way I view it now, I'm going to share two quick examples of how this kind of comes together. I was at a Think Indigenous conference in Saskatoon in 2016 or 2017. So that's Treaty 6 territory. And Dr. Leroy Littlebear, who's from Treaty 7, the Blood Tribe, was the keynote speaker. And he was saying he went out that morning to do his opening protocol to greet everything in creation. And as he went outside downtown Saskatoon by the river, beautiful place, he was greeting everything, and he was talking to the trees in Blackfoot, and they didn't respond. They didn't talk back to him, and because he said they didn't understand Blackfoot. They spoke Cree in Treaty 6. So that shows that the language comes from the land, and there's an acknowledgement that happens in the language. I'd like to explain this even a little bit further. I was listening to a couple lectures and a couple presentations, and one kind of stuck out that I thought really kind of explained this whole concept of using the language to connect people and to connect to the land. So the presentation that I watched was from Kaba Kameni, and he was talking about the origin of words. And it really made me think and appreciate the protocol that much more. So in this presentation, he kind of started by talking about how long does it take for a language to develop. And if you Google that, you'd probably you'd find different answers like 500 years or maybe 1,000 years. And then how would that actually happen? So everything has a vibration and a sound. Music has a vibration and a sound, and it speaks to you, it speaks to your spirit, and it makes you feel a certain way. So if you looked at words, and his example was a bird, and a bird that would fly by, it would make a sound and it would make a vibration. And if you wanted to tell somebody about that bird, you would mimic that sound and that vibration until you created a word that represented that verb, that action, that verb action word. And that's a lot of Indigenous people say our words are all verb based, and they kind of come from the environment. So if you did that, you know, over 500 years, you would develop a language that comes from the land, that comes from the local geography, based on all these sounds that you're mimicking until you turned it into words. So now that you kind of, if you look at it that way, you understand why if you go to a different region and you're speaking Blackfoot to the trees, they can't speak back to you because it's a different geography, and it would be different sounds, different vibrations in that geography. So now that we kind of understand where words come from and why we use local people and how it brings us together based on the local language, that might be the next steps to land acknowledgement. And throughout all the planning that we've done and all the work we've done on this symposium, we almost probably 90% of the time have had an elder help us get connected, help say the words, and the people that have the rights to give those words, and they're a part, and they bring us together, and then we work easily together. So I thought I would share that in case you, down the road, hear the land acknowledgements, you start developing Indigenous strategies or policies or anything within your company. It's very important to use local people. And that's what you'll always see at these CFT7 events is local Treaty 7 people with the opening protocol. So that's been a big part of our success, and I thought I would share that. So now we could probably get into the slides, and I'll try to get through it really quickly. Lizzie, can you put up the PowerPoint? And again, that's just the way I've come to understand it. I don't know if anyone else kind of feels that way or explains it that way, but I hope that shares a little bit of insight into why we like to use local people. So I've only got about 8 to 10 slides, and I should be able to get through inside of 15 minutes here, and then we have a break at 10. That's good. Okay. Oops. I jumped ahead. So we've got really only 5 areas that we want to talk to. I'll go back for a second there. So I'm going to talk about the organization a little bit, the youth program itself, our 2020 performance, because I know the feds are on the line and they wanted to hear a little bit about that, and then our student advisory committee, and then some of the 2021 symposium kind of logistics and numbers where we're at now. There we go. So this is the Community Futures Treaty 7 corporate structure. The chiefs of Treaty 7 territory are our shareholders. They meet once a year at our AGM to kind of go over our books. They appoint one of their council members to sit on our board of directors. And then they work closely with our general manager, Sanford Big Plume. We have 2 main departments at CFT7. We have the business development department there on the left. And there's 2 kind of programs, the business support services and the lending services. So if anyone in Treaty 7, any First Nation person, or sorry, Treaty 7 person comes to CFT7 with a business idea, the manager of that program, Shauna Morningbull, will help them to complete their business idea into a business plan. And then she can also provide a loan up to $35,000 for first-time entrepreneurs. And then on the other side of our kind of department is that ISETS program, which stands for Indigenous Skills and Employment Training Strategy. And we have 4 main programs: the general labor market, the youth program, the disability program, and the child care. The general labor market is the largest program. It funds 11 employment centers in southern Alberta, 1 on each First Nation in the 7 First Nations in Treaty 7, and then also 4 urban employment centers in Calgary, Lethbridge, Red Deer, and Medicine Hat. The disability component is for support services. Anytime there's a First Nation person with a disability that gets placed in a job, Jonathan Redgun is the manager of that program, and he can come in and provide support services if you need assistance working with a person with disability. And then also the childcare program, but that's only on reserve, and that's really to eliminate a barrier to employment. And the manager of the childcare program is Ashley Wright, and I think she's in the session today. I'm going to back up again quickly to the general labor market. They have large training programs that can cover tuition and living allowance and partner with industry. The two managers in that program are Shay Yellowhorn and Linda Domek. I think they're in the session today, and if you wanted to touch base with them, they'll probably be at the CFT7 table. And then there's the youth program. That's my portfolio. So there's really, right now, there's two kind of core program streams at the CFT7 youth program. So there's the ISET program, the Indigenous Skills and Training Employment Program, and that's kind of the core program. And really that targets out of school and unemployed youth that are aged 15 to 30. And there's really two ways that we've kind of delivered this programming, and that's through group-based training programs that can also have a paid work experience. And ultimately, we want youth out of these programs to either return to school or get a full-time job. And then the other way are wage subsidies. And we can do summer student wage subsidies, or we can do wage subsidies that are for anyone that wants to get into a permanent job. The funding level is really low on this program. It works out to about $71 per youth for the amount we get for all of Southern Alberta. And really what we're doing is kind of a long-term goal on this program is to get, I put flood industry with Treaty 7 post-secondary students. We'd love to just get all the students we can into the program. And really what we've done now is with this ISET funding envelope, we've shifted it all into the summer student wage subsidies so that we can create, hopefully, more and more placements every year. And then we also have the youth employment skills strategy, which is kind of a complement to our core program. And that's a 3-year funding agreement with Service Canada from April 2020 till March 31st, 2023. And within that agreement, we serve all the communities in Treaty 7. And we have these 27-week programs that include 9 weeks of group-based soft skill development workshops on the reserve that are followed by 18 weeks of paid work experience. So if you're looking for, if you're an employer that's looking for kind of entry-level workers, the Skills Link program would be a great fit for you. And then along with the Skills Link program, we also have a long-term work experience wage subsidy that is available. And Herb kind of manages that program. We have to create 20 full-time permanent jobs a year. And this program will provide a 6-month wage subsidy that pays $15 an hour for the entire 6 months. So get in touch with Herb if that's something you're interested in. The 3-year target on this program is to create 168 jobs within our Treaty 7 communities. So our 2020 performance, sorry, there's just a delay on this slide, so I pressed it again. With our ISET program, last year, through this symposium, February 2020, we created 35 placements, and this was during COVID. So when we did the event last year, you can see the picture on the top with all the students at the Calgary session. I think it was around 60 students that attended last year. And on our program dollar side, our ISET program, we contributed $137,000 to the overall wages. So that was at about 36% of the total wages. And the average reimbursement we gave to each employer for each placement was around $3,918. And based on our contribution of $137,000, the total wages that were created through the program last year was around $380,000. The average hourly rate for the summer student program or this symposium was $19.64 an hour, and the highest wage last year was $30.50. So definitely those wages are going up, the numbers are going up, and we were actually really pleased. We're still able to create 35 placements through this program. I think what it was going to be, we were expecting around 70 jobs created, but 1 year ago, COVID hit, I think 2 or 3 weeks. We got shut down 2 or 3 weeks right after we hosted the symposium. And understandably, a lot of jobs, I think it was new to everybody figuring out how to work during COVID. So a lot of the placements got canceled, but obviously 35 still went through. And we also had our Skills Link project. And can you actually blow that screen up, Lizzie? I can't. It's hard for me to actually read that from here. I believe the program served 52 youth in 2019 and 2020. And I'm going to step away from the mic just so I can see that slide, so I can read it. But I think oh, there we go, we're good. 52 completed their interventions. 14 are still in their work experience portion. 28 participants became employed through that program, and 19 participants returned to school. And then 5 participants are neither employed or returned to school, so that incompletion or lack of a successful outcome was really low. And only 8 participants out of the 52 did not complete the program. So that was just a little bit of our highlights from last year. To make this event successful, when we hosted last year, we looked at the event and we said, how can we increase the numbers? And immediately after the event last year, we said, what if we started a youth committee? So we did. We started a student advisory committee last year, and this is the pictures are them meeting. That was our last meeting during COVID. I think it was in October or November, and it was the last time we were allowed to meet in person, and everyone had their masks. So anyhow, the purpose of this committee is to advise CFT7 on how to do a better job of connecting with on-reserve youth in Treaty 7 territory. So we recruited this committee back in August. They went through orientation, and then we started meeting on a monthly basis. And to kind of develop some of the leadership skills, we had a rotating chair. So that gave everyone on the committee a chance to chair meetings and to see what that's actually like. The chair would also select training topics. So every time we met once a month, we had some type of training involved. And then they really looked at all our programs and started giving us instruction and direction on how to do things so that it would do a better job of connecting with young people. And they've been great at it. Oh, and I did put in there that the students, you know, there was a cost to doing this. So if you're an organization that's thinking about doing it and you're interested in our model, we did provide travel allowance and stipends. And we sat down and we said, what's the primary goal of this committee? And it was to increase our student recruitment. So who is this committee? We have 8 members on our committee, and that's a picture of them there on the right side, and then on the top left is the chair's duty is to bring an elder to help us with protocol to open the meeting. So that's Skyly and one of her elders at I think our second or third meeting. So our committee is comprised of members of Treaty 7 that are in post-secondary, and just quickly acknowledge their names here: Aaron Manywounds, Callie Weaselfat, Joey Beebe, Lizzie Blackplume, Sadie Jerry, Skyly Dixon, Sydney Two Young Men, and Paulina Winter. And they've been meeting like so much. Like at the start it was a little bit easier, and then it got really busy. So what did they achieve? They recruited 140 students to register in this event. I think last year we had 60 in Calgary and maybe 35 in Lethbridge. So using students, they did a much better job than we did. They also had gone out and asked their peers to put in the 77 video portfolios. And I know it was a little bit misleading because We had called them video portfolios / resumes. So a lot of employers thought we were actually collecting the resumes, and that's a challenge to do. So we thought, let's try the video portfolios. So this Indigenous peer-to-peer recruitment, it's way better than anything that we could probably do as service providers. And if you're targeting Indigenous youth, try to use other youth to recruit youth, and it'll be a lot easier. And then how did we do this? Well, how did they do this, I should say? They involved elders as much as possible. We started with those monthly meetings from September to December. And as we got closer to the event, January to February, we met every single weekend on Sundays, so we didn't disrupt anyone's class. The only major disruption on the Sunday meetings was, for me, I was missing out on my NFL Sunday, but that's okay. They did give me Super Bowl weekend off, so I did get to watch that, even though I wasn't happy with it. I didn't like seeing Tom Brady win, but that's okay. Maybe he can retire now. So in addition to all these meetings, the students also had at least 15 information sessions, and then the social media presence and posts. The idea of doing sessions came from the committee, and they went out to their communities, worked with the post-secondary institutions on the reserves, and asked them to partner and set up all these recruitment and information sessions for their peers. And it worked much, much better than what we did in previous years, hosting information sessions at the urban schools. So then a student to get to speak to a student about this event, it was so much better than what we did. And they came up with ideas and concepts like the video resumes, meeting directly with their own communities, all kinds of ideas and things that we couldn't do on our own. So they are a huge part of the success and the numbers that we have this year. So now I just want to talk quickly a little bit about the symposium logistics and some of the work that we had to do over the weekend. The two pictures are on the slide here are Hannah Owlchild and Lizzie Blackbloom. Lizzie is on our committee, and she stepped up to volunteer and help try to figure out this schedule of interviews. So that's a picture of, I think it was, the first picture was Saturday. I think they put in around 11 hours, and they're happy. Hannah there, she works for us right now on a part-time basis. She had her thumbs up, and then she's there the next night, and I think the next night they worked until 1:30 in the morning and still had their thumbs up and still smiling. It was an amazing job. I think if we were in person, we'd all give them a round of applause right now. So we had the 140 students registered for the symposium. I believe we have about 46 different employers to make about 110 jobs that are available to be filled over the next couple of days. Hannah and Lizzie probably put in, I'd say 20 hours over the weekend trying to schedule 775 interviews. So what they kind of did, and this is for everyone, like the students or employers, if you didn't get your preferences, the first thing that they tried to do was look at all the employer preferences. When you submitted your list of 14 or so people that you wanted an interview with, they kind of plotted that into a great big grid. And then step two, they looked at the preferences that students had, and they tried to accommodate and match that with the employer preferences. And I think what it ended up, sometimes if you didn't get your pick, it's maybe because the student didn't pick you or the employer didn't pick you as a student for the interview, and we still tried to give you a balance of both sides. And it wasn't an easy job to look at a grid of 775 interviews. It was definitely a big challenge. What we ended up seeing though was that every single student should have, the average was about 5 interviews per student. But on the lower end, there was some students that only ended up with 2 interviews, and that was probably because that student didn't submit a video and probably didn't submit their selections to CFT7 on who they wanted to interview with. And then on the high side, we had 12 interviews. We thought we could get up to 14, but it just took away from other areas, and then it took out all the time slots, and we wanted to try to give a little bit of balance. And then step 3, we tried to populate the remaining squares on the grid with students and employers that were hopefully a match from field of study and the type of job or the type of summer student that the employer was looking for. So what I'd like to remind everyone about, there are students that have a lower number of interviews, and if you're at your interview table on the Wednesday and Thursday and your student didn't make the session or missed that interview time, within probably the first 3 to 4 minutes, we would ask that you put a comment into the general chat that everyone can see. And this is in conversation mode. When you see all the tables, there's a private chat and then there's general chat. So if someone is not there, what we've kind of tried to tell students was that if your person is not there, put it into the chat where you are, what floor and what the table name is, and how much time they have to get to your table, and they can fill that vacant interview. And just to maybe explain what could happen, if a student misses their interview time, it could be a technical issue, an internet connection thing. A lot of students are at home. A lot probably have kids. Maybe one of the kids needed a diaper change, something like that, and they missed their interview. So if that does happen, there's all kinds of reasons why. There's students that are waiting. We've asked them to watch that general chat, and if there's an opportunity for them to take that interview and get an additional interview, that's great. I think what we'd also like to do or suggest is that if you're a student or an employer that you wanted to interview with someone and they're not on your schedule, use this networking break. I believe what we're going to do in our first networking break is have employers stay at the table. This is our golf tournament. We're only maybe going to have it if the COVID restriction rules are lifted. We have it at Sirocco, August 5th, first week of August. But we'll send out more information as time goes, and I'm getting the hurry up. So before we kind of get to break, I just wanted to quickly revisit the agenda. The black areas, we should be through that now. We're going to go into our first networking break as soon as I'm done. Employers are located on floors 1 through 5. And for this first networking break, employers, please stay at your tables. And students who are located on floors 6 to 8, feel free to come on down to floors 1 through 5. Pull out your 3-page table plan. And if there's an employer you wanted to interview with, feel free to jump into their table, make a connection with them. Possibly you could look at scheduling an interview Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe one of the open spots that the employer has, or you could agree that our 3 o'clock session, maybe you'll meet them on your floor. So you could make a plan to try to connect with employers if we weren't able to help you connect with them. So that you've got about 15 or 20 minutes. We've been pretty flexible with our time. So if I've gone too long, we'll just shift our time over to give Sam, make sure he gets his full 45 minutes or more if needed. So with that, thank you very much for listening to me yammer on. I've been talking for months and months, so I hear myself too much sometimes. So I'm going to give the floor back to Loa, and we will eventually get over to the conversation mode and networking, our first networking break.
Right. Thank you very much. I have a gift for you too.
Oh wow! Thank you.
There you go. Thank you for all your. It doesn't account to all the hard work that you do.
Oh, I wasn't even expecting anything. Great surprise. Thank you.
And I made it myself. You got to open it and come back and show the group.
Okay. Thanks, Lola.
Thank you. I listened to all the work that Rob and his team have been doing, and I want to say that I agree with him on the Students Advisory Committee, and a lot of the stuff that they're doing is definitely due to funding and the funding that they work on trying to obtain for this program to continue to grow every single year. So I want to leave everybody in your networking mode, and we will come back exactly at 10:15, and we have our keynote speaker for this morning. So enjoy the networking.